Well, I think it's great that people are actually talking about this, because I think it's obvious that it's not always going to be the best fun playing with a very small child. You're going to have very different interests by the nature of the fact that your child is a baby or a 5-year-old or a 2-year-old or even a sort of 10 or 12-year-old. You're a grown adult, a grown woman. You're going to have different interests, and particularly when they're very small, when they love repetition. And of course it's gorgeous to play peekaboo and see the surprise in your baby's face, and oh, it melts your heart. But 300 times later, they're still really into it, and you kind of might think, well, OK, we've kind of done this now.
10 and 12
They're bigger now, yeah.
So did you ever, because we've used this word admit, would you admit to it?
Yeah.
I believe a lot of women probably feel it.
Yeah.
I certainly did, but didn't want to say it.
Well, no,
because
exactly.
I did think that
yes, but then why would you
criticise
criticise me if I said it, and I would say it, and to this day you've got a 13-year-old who you dance to his every whim. As soon as he says, Mommy, will you come and do this with me? I'll usually say, no, I'm reading the paper, and you'll go and do it.
Because I think, because he's an only child, and I always felt I should, and it was my job. So I think it is quite hard. I found it hard to say.
Well, no, I think it's even changed, to be honest, because, like you say, my children are 10 and 12 now. I think it's even changed in the last 10 years. I mean, when the children were babies, and I was quite often finding it quite boring, I did feel really guilty because it was talked about less, and I assumed that everybody else was having an amazing time doing tumble tots and monkey music and doing all of it. Oh, yes.
Do you do all that, Denise? Do you enjoy all that? Why do you love it so much?
We don't do a lot of that. I mean, the thing that Bo loves is going to the school drop-in in the morning, and they have so many different activities. And I see him do the same things every morning, but he does them in a slightly different way. I mean, this is the thing, when children play, it's actually learning, they're developing. And as adults, we see that on a different level. So you see, you know, the slightly different way of reacting, the different way of interpreting a piece of paper or a pencil. And
but isn't that the problem from people? And actually, there's a psychologist, Peter Gray, who has said children learn by doing things repetitively.
Yes.
And as an adult, of course, you are going to find that boring. So an 18-month-old, toddler loves just folding a piece of paper and thinks it's fascinating. They want you to do it again and again.
So you're not
bored
because you're a bad parent. You're bored because it is boring.
Yeah, because you're a grown-up and you don't want to fold a piece of paper 1,000 times. And also, your child, after a bit, he can fold a bit of paper by himself. He doesn't need you there the whole time. He needs to learn to play by himself too.
Denise saying that you observe as a parent, although you would say leave them like little lion cubs or whatever to get on and find out about life themselves, but you're saying you have a role to play because you can observe and you can interpret and you can see how far they are advancing and learning.
Absolutely. And also, I mean, there are lots of things that you would do that the child will find very boring.
Indeed.
Exactly. So why should they find it interesting? Equally, why should you find what your child is doing interesting I mean, surely you can't find it interesting to see him fold the paper every single time. Yes, the first few times maybe, and sometimes if he does something particularly different, maybe, but surely not every single time. I really can't believe that you are never, ever bored playing with your child, which seems to be what you're claiming. Maybe I'm wrong, but I really find that very difficult to believe.
I see that I have a role as an adult.
Yes, you have a role, but it doesn't mean... I mean, I have a role to do lots of things. I have to do the laundry, that's boring.
Exactly.
But, so sometimes equally playing with my child is boring. Not always, a lot of the time I love playing with children, of course, but it seems to me you're saying that it's never boring, and surely it is, just by the nature of what it is.
We all have difficult days. We have days where our minds are distracted, that we have lots of other things to do, and it may not be so restful and enjoyable. But I actually find lots of different ways to enjoy the different ways that my children interpret anything from some plastic cups, like in the green room today, to a cardboard box, because we all know, you buy your child a really expensive toy at Christmas, and while you're trying to figure out how it works, because that's really interesting to you, they just love the cardboard box. And that's all about, because let's face it, whatever environment we're in, I mean, we're in a pre-industrialised technological age now, we delineate very sharply between an adult world and a child's world.